Hey, welcome to the third episode of Gin and Gist. I'm Preshy.
And I'm Breii.
And I'm Henna.
Okay, so as usual, we're going to start by asking what everybody's drinking today.
I got some red wine today.
Okay.
I got sangria.
Okay, and I have water. Don't come for me, but I have water. Yes. Again. Okay, so episode 3, we're going to be talking about beauty standards, and it's just going to be a casual conversation. I'm going to be asking you all some questions and obviously answering some as well. Our first question is going to be how the standards of beauty have impacted you. So anyone can go first.
I feel like beauty standards have impacted the way, I feel like it impacts the way that you look at people, literally, and the way that you look at yourself, like not even speaking metaphorically, like, you're like, oh, okay, I'm pretty, but do I look like, X, Y, and Z, or like, do I look like the idea of beauty that I feel like there's like not a general consensus, but there's an idea of beauty, like what's attractive. Like lots of people can be attractive in lots of ways, but like I feel like there's like a general consensus on what attractive is. So it makes you look at yourself and other people differently. Even though you may not want to, you may not mean to, but I feel like it's kind of like a subconscious
thing. You want to repeat the question?
The question is, how have the standards of beauty impacted you?
I feel like it's hard to, I wouldn't say that they haven't, I feel like I can't say they don't impact me or they haven't impacted me in some way, but it's hard to put a finger on it. Because for me personally, I feel like I can't remember a time where I felt like I had to compare myself to someone else, or I felt like I wasn't up to par, whatever that's supposed to mean. Like I felt like I've always kind of accepted my flaws and love my physical self. Not to say that I think I'm perfect, but I think that accepting your flaws is all that should matter. I don't know, for me, standard ideas of beauty, I really don't allow them to like get to my head or to determine how beautiful I think I am. But, I know it's not that easy for others, so I'm just speaking from my own point of view.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think standards of beauty are so complicated on my end because I think that it didn't click again till I was older. Not necessarily older, I would say like middle school, when you actually start like caring about boys and like caring about how you look and those interactions. So standard of beauty affected me in a sense of like seeing what the men around me were attracted to and then what I looked like. Not necessarily like, oh, I want to be like them, but then it impacted me in a sense. It was like, dang, like I don't look like that. So will somebody ever look at me or speak about me in the way that they're speaking about me? And I think it was ongoing till college. So like high school was the same. I think college was different because then I met like different types of men, different types of perspectives. So yeah. Does anyone have anything else to add about that?
Nope. Moving on.
All right. So speaking of that, have your standards of beauty changed over time? And so like, just to give more focus, just like trends. So like dark skin love, like the whole chocolate thing, fat versus skinny, the Instagram model body. So like have your personal standards of beauty changed, and the trends over time affected your perspective?
Again, I don't think so. I feel like they shouldn't. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it's hard. It's honestly hard for us as people to, I guess, block out what society has like molded us to believe and things like that, because you grow up in it and it's all you know and it's all you hear all the time. And even with trends, which are like always changing, for some reason people always feel like they got to keep up with the trend. And I just think that it shouldn't be that way, especially not for a topic or a subject like beauty. I think everyone should define beauty for themselves, because we're all different. At the end of the day, we all look different in the face. We all look different overall, like body and everything. So while beauty trends change, I think it shouldn't be that way. That's the most I could say about that.
I definitely feel like trends have changed. I remember when I was in middle school, oh my goodness, like if you were dark, it was hard. Like, I mean, I wasn't that dark, but like the darker kids and like even darker boys, like the way people, kids like joning and going on each other, they used to just go in.
Mm-hmm.
If you were too skinny, that was a thing too. Like they'll call you flat chested and all types of things. And of course, if you're fat, they'll make fun of that. So like, it was like there had to be like a happy medium. And then like we got to middle school and everybody started hitting puberty and like growing boobs. So like all the boys like the girls with boobs, but not the fat ones and not the flat chested ones. And I definitely feel like there was a preference for like lighter girls and girls with like long hair or curly hair, things like that. So I feel like there was like this pretty like, I feel like there was an idea of what like attractive girls were like when we were younger, and then now that we're getting older, I definitely feel like it's broadening, thank God, because, at least the girls coming up after us don't have to deal with things, quite the same way. But I feel like when I got to college, when I got to Howard, I saw all those different types of people, and they were just so comfortable with the way they were, like just the way that they looked, and that definitely affected me. Just to throw that out there, going to Howard definitely helped me with accepting my own standard of beauty. I definitely feel like it's changed. Everybody loves dark skinned people now. Everybody loves a dark skinned girl, and now everybody encourage everyone to be natural, wear natural hair. So I definitely feel like standards of beauty are changing, and they're definitely becoming more inclusive. But I still feel like I don't say that there's still like an idea, there's still like a look, but like there's still an idea of conventional beauty, but they've definitely changed and become more inclusive.
I think that I was about to say something. I also think that like words that describe a person's look, I don't feel like they should be offensive. Like I was watching an Instagram live video not too long ago, and people were getting upset because this guy was on live talking about how he don't like fat girls. And people were basically saying, because basically what he said was fat bitches K. That's exactly how he said it. Fat bitches,
he said what?
Fat bitches K. Like that's a dub.
Oh, okay.
And so people were coming at him like, yo, like, you don't gotta say it like that, or like you're being rude, or like you can't call somebody fat and stuff like that. And like to an extent I understood, because I felt like you don't walk up to a fat person and say fat bitch is kid. That's disrespectful. But at the same time, I felt like he was on IG live. It was his live. He could say whatever he want, honestly. And if you don't like it, you should leave. But that's besides the point. The point I wanted to make was like, the word fat, I feel like shouldn't be taken so offensively. Like, I feel like people don't often realize, like, yeah, I don't have to say fat. I could say something else. I can tiptoe around it, but the word is fat. Like, that is the descriptive word. And I feel like a lot of the times it's the way the person takes it, the way the person receives it that makes it offensive, and not necessarily always how somebody's giving it. And I feel like that's another thing too. Like, when it comes to beauty and stuff like that, if you love yourself, somebody call you and you're fat, somebody call you fat, that cannot hurt you. You get me? So I just feel like if people learn to love themselves and stuff like that, then beauty trends or like people's perspective on beauty, it shouldn't even matter. It won't even faze you.
I feel like that's ideal, but realistically, the reason that the word fat can be used as an insult is because generally it's seen as a bad thing. Like beauty standards tell you that being fat is a bad thing. Like when I again, going back to like middle school or high school, you know, they would talk about people, oh, that fat this, like, oh, you're dark as hell. Like the fact that calling somebody dark is used as an insult is because it's seen as a bad thing. So even if you like don't feel like you being dark or you being fat is a bad thing, that's the, I don't want to, you know, generalize too much, but that's like the general consensus. Like it's used as an insult because it's seen as a bad thing. So ideally, you know, you accept yourself, but you don't live in the world by yourself. Like, you know what I mean? So other people's perspectives and all that stuff, it does come into play. So again, so people are working towards the word being fat and not being an insult. It's literally like an adjective. Like if, you know, like fat is fat. So I feel like
people get called skinny. They take it like people who don't like the fact that they're skinny, they see that as offensive. And me, obviously, I'm calling you skinny. I'm not trying to be offensive because the word skinny is not seen.
Not seen as a bad thing.
Yeah.
But that person doesn't like the fact that they're skinny, so they take it that way. And so it's like it's a lot about people's perspectives of themselves versus, you know, what whoever's talking to them is trying to say, or what the trends are trying to project. It has a lot to do with how you feel about yourself, I feel like.
But again, talking about beauty standards changing, I feel like they are changing because I feel like now people be like, oh, like she's too skinny. You know, there's like a preference for thickness or like thick women or whatever. Or now there's this thing that's like, we don't do light skinning because like calling it like a guy like light skin is like an insult, like you're just soft or you're pretty. So it's funny because a few years ago that wasn't the case at all. But so that definitely, you know, highlights the fact that stuff is changing, standards are changing.
Any comments?
This was a lot to unpack because you guys, you know, you guys really know for real dropped some great points. So first I'm going to address Henna's comment about being in middle school. Like I remember being in middle school and being like, again, 7th grade, 8th grade, like Breii mentioned something about like self-love and like not letting society's standard affect you. Like there's still some comments that I remember from middle school. Like, yeah, we were young at 13, 14 that like, it took me so long to get over and so long to like, I don't even want to say heal from because it probably is not that deep, but like heal from like legit little boys. It is like, that's what I'm saying, you know, like there are other, it's traumatic, but I don't want to be like extra. But there's a point in time where like, it was so hard to love yourself because people didn't love you. Does that make sense? Like, it's not even about how I feel about myself. It's like legit, like every day.
People think of you.
Exactly. And it's not even about like what they think of me because I couldn't hear it's how they perceived me, as in like my darkness. Yeah. Like my darkness was an insult. Yeah. And like little boys used to say things like light skin is the right skin. Like legit, I will never, ever, ever forget that line in my life. Till this day, I'm 23. Like, what was I, 12, 10? Like, that was almost 11 years ago. So those things are very impactful. But again, when I went to Howard, it was like, there was so many like girls with blonde hair, purple hair, blue hair, piercings, like just doing whatever, like being poppin'. That's when I really like realized like, yo, like I'm that girl. Like I'm
and you are what you and
shout out to Howard, man.
I don't want to get personal, but one of your floor mates from freshman year had so much self-esteem problems when we were friends with her and stuff like that. And you know, I feel like those issues kind of made us or her stop talking to us one way or another. Now that she's found her confidence, she didn't lose no weight. She didn't have no surgery, nothing. It was about confidence and accepting herself. And now she's a popping ass makeup artist. Popping.
Yeah.
Like, she's dope to me. Like,
yeah.
And all it took was that confidence. So I feel like it's how you feel about yourself, boo-boo. Can't nobody tell you nothing. Like, yes, I have flaws. I'm not perfect, but I'm going to accept them. I'm going to choose to learn to love them.
But I think you have to be in a space for that. And again, to bring that scenario up freshman year, like we were freshmen, and by sophomore year, she wasn't like that anymore because she was literally, like you're in a space where literally everybody's popping and they look at you and you're like, yo, you're popping, like you're cool, you're from this place or you're from this place. Oh, you're from New York too. And then suddenly it's like, there's a deeper connection and you learn to love yourself beyond what you look like because people are really out there and they're for you. So again, I really think it's that emphasis, but think about like women and girls who don't grow up in spaces where people are uplifting you or people were like, you know, you're that girl or you're it. Like we went to a campus where like if you look good from across the yard, somebody's gonna be like, "Hey sis, like, you know, like, go on sis, like,
across the yard,
like that was our environment. So like you had no choice but to wake up in the morning and like be popping. Like when I was younger, I was so uncomfortable because I like grew up, like I hit puberty really quick. So like boobs, hip, all of it. So I used to wear like oversized clothes and I would wear 2 sports bras to like compress my boobs. Now I haven't worn a bra in.
We don't do that. We
Like,
don't
you know what I'm
bras.
saying? Because it took from like I reclaimed my time from where like being in an African society where like, oh, you have to wear a long skirt, you can't show too much chest, you don't want the boys to look at you, to being on a campus where it was like, it's my body, my choice. Like I'm gonna do what I want because it's my body, my choice. So I think it's really about the space that you're in when you're really like coming into yourself and coming into a woman. Because if you're not in a good space and if you're not surrounded by people who motivate you and you can like see yourself in them, like that representation, then it's really hard to get out that mental.
That's very valid.
Yeah, being in a, when I hit puberty, I went from being like relatively skinny and dark to like when I hit puberty, I gained weight. Like I was one of those people, like I gained weight. Like you see it in my face, you see it in my body. I've always had big breasts, but like they came in, like when I hit puberty in high school, it was hard. Like it went from, you know, feeling a type of way because I was dark and like skinny, and then all of a sudden I was dark and then I had boobs, but I didn't have a butt, and then I got a butt, but then the rest of me got big too. So like I was a little chubby, and then I got stretch marks. It was a lot happening, and then I was in an environment where high school, look, people were trash for the majority of high school. So it's just like, you know, and that's when you start paying attention to boys. Like you're really paying attention to what boys think and what girls go after. I mean, what girls the boys go after, and what they're saying to you. So I definitely agree with like what space that you're in when you're coming into yourself. I feel like that was just one time for me to grow into myself. Then me definitely going to college was another time for me to grow into myself. And yeah, being at Howard was a really good space to come into myself again.
It's sad that people feel like they can talk to you and tell you about yourself. Like, that's
so entitled. Very wild. All right, so since we're talking about like environments and stuff, and I'm gonna bring up this question. It's about navigating standards of beauty, being like American beauty versus African beauty. And I can like expand on that if y'all want me to, but like, what'd you say, Breii?
Yeah, expand, please.
Okay, so like, when I say African beauty, have you all seen the movie Fat Girls with Monique?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's basically like flipped where she goes, I don't know what African country they go to because, you know, they didn't specify. They went to Africa. They went to Africa, and, you know, Monique is African American. She's a Black woman. And Monique and I think her best friend and her cousin go to Africa. And basically her cousin is like the, you know, regular, like what I guess I would call her standard beauty, you know, slim lady, and Monique is on the bigger side. And basically they get to the African country and it's flipped because, you know, the African women are like, yes, Monique, like you're thick, you have childbearing hips, you got boobs, like, you know, and then they're asking her cousin if she's like sick. They basically like talking to her cousin in like a different.
I'm laughing because I remember the movie, not because that's
okay, yeah. And so like that entire scene makes me weak all the time because I don't even know I don't think it was like they're supposed to be their version of Yoruba or something. And basically she says something like, oh, is this girl sick because she's on the smaller side? So all that to say, like, you know, I think African standards of beauty, like, I know I've talked to guys who are like, oh, something South African girls are like shaped a certain way, like they have like hips, you know, the boobs. I think like that's an African man fetish. Like that's something African men want. You have to have a butt, you have to have hips, you have to have breasts. Like it's just.
Actually, I feel like I was agreeing, but now that I think about it, I feel like that maybe actually back home that's what it is. But I know here, gain 2 pounds. If your mom don't tell you, your cousin will tell you. If your cousin don't tell you, your dad will bring it up. If your dad doesn't bring it up, somebody's auntie somewhere.
I was having this conversation with my friends.
They love to tell you you're getting fat. So I feel like, I don't know. I'm like, is it only acceptable to be thick when you're older? Like, I don't get it. But they love to tell you when you're getting fat. So I don't know when they decide that, like, I feel like maybe when you get your grown woman body, it's acceptable. But when you're younger, they love to point out when you're gaining weight.
No, even when you're like getting too skinny too, like it's there's never like there was a last summer my mom was like, Preshy, your collarbones are starting to show, and I was like, sis, I'm stressed. Like,
That's my mom too.
so I don't think it's size is, I think it's really just like it's based on the mood that they're feeling today. Like it just depends on what the mood is. Like, do they feel like you should be slim today or you should be, thick today? Because God forbid you come home and you 10 extra pounds heavier. God forbid.
On you. Or if you lose too much, are you okay?
That when I was growing up, if you're fat or skinny or nappy headed, they'll call you that. Like they'll find a name and that's your name. Like that's what they will call you. They will call you, and I mean we speak Creole, so they might say it in Creole, which might just make it funnier, honestly. They'll call you, like for me, there was a point in time where my grandma and my aunt used to call me Boudin, and that basically means like belly because I was big. And I wasn't even that fat. Like, I really was. I've never been obese. Like, I've never been, like, crazy fat. But I've always been on the heavier side. I mean, it didn't affect me. I could care less. But it's just an example that they'll literally call you that to them. Like, if you fat and you refuse to lose weight, that would be your name. Your name would be the fat girl. Like,
yeah. I'm like the American standard of beauty part. I've never talked to an American guy before. And when we say American, disclaimer purposes, we mean like Black and African American. We're all like first generation immigrants. So when we say American, that's what we mean. We don't mean like the Caucasian standard of beauty because we don't know nothing about that. Just for disclaimer. So when we say like African American / Black men, I've never talked to one, so I don't really, but I do have guy friends who are African American / Black, and I think that they don't necessarily discriminate in regards to like standards of beauty, like everyone has a preference is what I'm trying to say. Like nobody's ever like, you need to be built like this, or you need to be shaped like this, or she needs to, look like this. It's either they have what they're attracted to.
I would say that African Americans are a bit more lenient. When it comes to the what they see as a standard for people around them, definitely in the Caribbean or from what I know about the African cultures, it's more intense. Like we said, people will call you out for being fat or for being slim and stuff like that. But for American culture, I don't think it's that. And then Americans are just like, in the Caribbean or in Africa, when somebody is bashing you, you have to keep quiet. And American, if you call me fat, I'm gonna punch you in the face. So it's also true. Like, in the American culture, it's more of like, it's not your business. Don't be disrespectful because I'm gonna knock you out. Even if you are my aunt, we could get it popping. So, it's also that too. Like people, I feel like people respect each other. People respect younger people more in the American culture. So they don't belittle them as much or try to like criticize them as much in terms of their physical appearance.
I do think African and Caribbean families might be harder on young people, young women just in general. Like I feel like I feel like that's a whole nother conversation, but just the thing about like respect and age, like the fact that you just have to take it no matter what, but that's another conversation. But I do feel like Africans living in America, I feel like, or at least in my experience, they do or did try to conform to American beauty standards, because I remember like, and coming from a place of like absolute love, like my mother has never, ever in this life been the type of person to like belittle me or make fun of me or make me think that like I'm anything less than beautiful. Honestly, majority of my confidence comes from her. Like she's obsessed with me. But I do remember like when we were younger, like she would relax my hair. She'd be like, yeah, we're gonna straighten your hair. And so it's easier to do it. You can do this, that, and the third. And I feel like our natural hair was not embraced like by anybody really in our communities growing up. Like perming your hair, at least, in my experience, was really a thing. Like, and it was constant. Like you straighten your hair. Like your mom was straightening your hair. You yourself wanted to straighten your hair because your hair, you wanted it to be straight and like look like the other girls. So I feel like that was one thing. And then I don't want to get like too much into bleaching because again, I feel like that's another conversation, but looking lighter just genuinely, like all over the world, no matter what country you go to, darker, like the darker population or people who look darker are treated worse all over the world. So
everywhere.
looking lighter is being lighter is a universal beauty standard. And I feel like coming from Africa, we should, I want to say know better, because that's just, and when I say know better, I don't mean that looking one way is better than another, but like accepting the way that you look, or the fact that you are darker, because I mean, look at where we're from. Like we're in the sun. It's like being dark is just natural. It's a thing. So, but I feel like there was some, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but there was definitely an attempt to like conform to American beauty standards.
Okay, so going off that, and just so we can like round up this particular question, because it's getting real juicy and I want to get to like the other questions. So whose fault do you all think it is in regards to like why our parents perhaps, wanted to straighten our hair? For example, like who do we blame? Like, are we going back to, go ahead, Breii.
That's a hard question. I feel like I think about that not just in this on this topic, but on a lot of things. Like, this is a question that busts my brain, because I'll be like, who actually said that this should be our society? Who said that we needed money to buy things? Who said that we had to wear clothes? Who said that we had to live in houses? Who said that we had to have kids? Who said that we had to be married? Like, who decided that this is what it should be like? And then it gets into religion, but we're not even gonna go there. But I'm just saying, in terms, like, disregarding religion and spirituality and God and the creator of all things, God works through man still. And I don't know, I just, when it comes to beauty, whose fault is it? It's hard to put a finger on that. I feel like it's just so many decades and generations of conforming.
I feel like
their perspective and putting it into the world.
I feel like I thought about this a little bit, like prior to this conversation. I feel like who do we blame is pretty deep. So coming at it simply, I feel like, all right, so you're a young girl growing up, and like, what do you look at? Or personally, what did I look at as beauty? I'm like, okay, what do I see on TV? Like, what is something that everybody can agree on? Like, who are we all seeing on TV? Who's popular? Who's beautiful? Who's in the movies, in the music videos? So I'm thinking that I feel like beauty standards come from what we all see as acceptable. So of course, if you're famous and you're popping and you're this and you're that, like you got there, for a reason. So I feel like looking at it that way, you could say that beauty standards come from, I don't want to say like entertainment or from media, but I feel like that's part of it. Like people, like beautiful people are the people, you think of walking up and down Hollywood and they're in the movies, yada yada yada. And it's like, who decides that? Who signs these artists? Who, puts them in the movies? How do you become a child model? How do you become a child star? Like, who decides that you're attractive enough? Who tells you that you're beautiful? And I feel like if you want to look at it that way, I feel like it all comes down to, I don't want to just say like white people, but I feel like that is, you know what I mean? I feel like that is who controls that aspect of it. And I feel like when people talk about beauty standards, they often reference European standards of beauty. Why is that always the reference? Because that's where I guess it stems from. I don't know. So I feel like there's that in that sense. But looking at it like universally, who decides beauty standards, or even looking at it the way it is now, like why is there this switch from wanting to be slim or whatever, looking like Halle Berry, versus how like all the thick girls look now? It's like whose approval are we chasing? I say that, take that with the grain of salt. But who are we going based off? And I feel like in that sense it's men, because now it's like, okay, now they want the thick Instagram model girls and they want the, so it's like, are we, because I don't know, I just feel like women have never decided beauty standards, if you know what I mean. And I feel like if they did, then there wouldn't have been such a one-track mindset about it, if you know what I mean. So I feel like it's never been a Black woman deciding beauty standards, if you want to put it extremely simply. It's always been, those with the power. And when I say power, of course, like white people have the power over mainstream media in that, in that aspect, or they did. And then men have the power over what's seen as acceptable, what's seen as desirable, what's seen as who you want to marry, who you want to pick. Like patriarchy takes over in that sense. So I feel like who's to blame for beauty standards is an extremely complex question, but there's layers to it. But I feel like it's never been in the hands of you and me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree that it hasn't been in the hands of, like, how do I put it? Okay, for us as women, or as Black women, we could say it hasn't been in our hands. And speaking of, you spoke about how you think it's at some, or in some way it's in the hands of the men. I feel like I can agree with that. But I feel like, yeah, to an extent I agree with that, because whether we like it or not, we want to attract men. We really do. So we often find ourselves doing things that we think will
Okay, so I have a pushback on that, right?
Okay, I want to hear it.
And real quick, because we only have so much time, and I want to get to the last two questions because they're really good. Okay, but really, really quick, I will push back and say that when Precious, if it's when I wake up in the morning and I put on my makeup, is not because I'm going outside to please men.
Okay, like, your question.
Yes,
please. I feel like you can say that now because you've made the conscious decision to train yourself that way. But at some point, you did question yourself based on a man's point of view of you.
So see, this is different, because now we're going into toxic relationships and toxic situations, and that's really different.
It could be a relationship.
Yeah,
society in general.
But like in general. So I do agree with you. That's a really great perspective, because in a sense that if I let all the things that I heard in middle school and high school affect me in college, then it would have been harder for me to navigate like being with another man. But like, I guess when I'm in a relationship, like I don't like, I can take my wig, I can take it off in front of my significant other. Like, that's not a big deal to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I can, it took me a while to get there. Like, I still have friends who are like, oh my God, I can't take off my wig in front of my boyfriend. I was like, uncle, please pass me my bonnet so that I can go to sleep. Like, it's levels, so I agree, but I think that it's very, very, like, it's a bold statement to say that some, like, women, wake up every day and think of like, oh, how can I attract this man?
So I think what Breii was
attract men, and generally we do. You want to be a husband.
No,
I will agree there.
That's the point I was made. I don't think a woman should base their own beauty on what another man thinks, but we want to be physically appealing to others. It's
very true. Yeah, because you want to be sexy for your man. You want to like look good for your man. I get that.
Yeah, so I feel like people want to be like, when you wake up and you brush your hair. Why do you brush your hair? You brush your hair, because it's a part of upkeep, and because it's a part of upkeep. But you also want to be desirable. And who do you want to desire you? I feel like it's natural, it's biological. Who do you want to desire you? So in as much as we do things for ourselves, there is a component of wanting to be attractive, wanting to be acceptable. But I feel like your idea of attractive and acceptable shouldn't change because of a man or a man's opinion. But it's still a factor, but it shouldn't be a factor that determines, like whether you accept yourself or not, whether you change yourself.
I definitely
I'm trying to say.
Okay, so this question, I'm going to ask y'all to keep it real short so we can get to the last two questions. So what are your thoughts on plastic surgery? Would you do plastic surgery? And like, again, to tie in that question, how do you overcome not fitting the standard? If you do feel like you don't fit the set standard, how do you overcome that? If you don't want to answer that question, you could just focus on like the plastic surgery component.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with plastic surgery. I feel like if you got the money and it's gonna make you happy, go ahead. I mean, there's always that talk of accept yourself as you are, blah, 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 blah. The fact is some of us don't. And if you have the power to change it, I feel like you should. But there are limits. I mean, we have people who they do these surgeries and they don't come out looking good. And I feel like at that point, you just up because
You played yourself.
yeah, like you've just played yourself. So like I don't see nothing wrong with surgery. Would I ever do surgery? Nothing. I don't see me doing. The essential answer is yes. I don't see me doing anything drastic at all. Maybe like a boob lift, maybe like laser hair removal, maybe like
It's just said laser hair.
No, that's real. That's real.
Right? If I had the money, I would definitely do laser hair removal. Get my leg permanently. Yeah, that's popping. But maybe like a little tummy tuck. I wouldn't ever do anything where I've now gone from skinny to thick, or I've gone from no hips to mad hips. Like I feel like people be ODing. Like you have to work with what you have, enhance what you have, but don't try to change your body completely, because I feel like that's where it goes wrong. And what were you tying it back into?
I was tying it back to how you overcome not fitting the standard, if that pertains to you.
Well, yeah, if surgery is gonna help you feel like you fit the standard and it means that much to you and that's your way of dealing with it, I'd say go for it. Like if you're gonna come out feeling great and you can still be healthy and you can look good and feel good, then do it. Shit.
Well, speaking for me, look, I've been very vocal about this. All right. Mm-hmm. Mommy makeover is gonna be a thing, and Precious is gonna pick me up after. I feel like
I'm gonna pick her up after her surgery.
I feel like there's nothing wrong with it in the sense that like people are always screaming, oh, do what you want that makes you happy. Oh, don't do surgery, don't do that. What's the difference? I honestly feel like if you want to get plastic surgery, if you want to modify your body, as long as you're being safe, that's on you. Because again, as long as you're doing it to be what you think is beautiful. Like if I'm skinny and I think that being more filled out is what looks good, and I can go to a doctor and say to get more filled out, and I'm like, dang, I look good, then I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. And then but then I feel like it's so frowned upon because, again, like there's this idea that men have decided that being thicker and looking like a video vixen and the Instagram model is better. So, like, you're doing this to satisfy men. But they're the same ones yelling that they want a natural woman, but all their likes are all the Instagram. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't, please. Like, you can't base what you're doing off of them because I don't even think that they know what they want. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you're being safe and you're doing it for you, and like you realize that a lot of these things aren't easily reversible, so you aren't stuck looking like something you don't want to look like. And then the second part of your question, how do you overcome not fitting the standard? I feel like first of all, something that people need to reflect on is whether or not you fit the standard of beauty. You know what I mean? Because again, like there is this idea, but there's a lot, like there's room in it, if that makes sense. Like I know I'm pretty, you know what I mean? Like I am conventionally pretty in a way that like I've never aside from like, being younger and those middle school insecurities, but like I'm coming to myself, like I know I'm attractive. So and I'm conventionally attractive, so I feel like there's like a certain amount of like privilege within that, being conventionally attractive. So you know what they say about pretty privilege, and you don't really think about it.
You gotta hold for that. That's the next T.
I know. Sorry. Not to get too much into it. Also, excuse my nose. My nose look crazy, and I talk with my hands a lot. So, not getting too deep into that, but thinking about whether or not you're already conventionally attractive is a thing. So, but I feel like I do look different. Like, I feel like my type of beauty is something that I had to adjust to. Like, I feel like I have a big nose. I feel like I'm my face is chubbier. Like, once I hit puberty, I've never been skinny. So I feel like there are things that took some time for me to accept. If anybody knows me personally, I have chicken legs. I have some seriously skinny legs. It took me a long time to be okay with that. Like I have big boobs, and then I have skinny legs, but I'm not skinny. And like I have chubby cheeks, but like I'm getting older. And there's like, I feel like you really, 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 really just have to decide that
Yeah.
you are fine as hell.
Take
And
conscious
like you have to decide that you are fine as hell and run with it. And that's literally what I did, and I've never looked back.
And that's
of course
for, all things. All things. When you own something, can't nobody use it to knock you down. And I feel like people don't realize that. Like Cardi B is a prime example. She could have been bashed for being a stripper. She could have been bashed for doing all that stuff. But I used to do that shit. So what? And now I leveled up. So what? And it's all about, if you don't allow people to use stuff like that and make you feel bad about yourself, then they won't be able to. That's why it all comes from you. Like, you have to make the choice to want to accept you for who you are, and then make the conscious effort to do what it takes to actually get to that point where you do accept who you are and you do love yourself. And that's not to say that you're going to get cocky and think you're the baddest and start knocking others down, but you're just going to know within yourself, yes, I don't like this about myself or that, but I'm not going to let anybody use that against me. That's all.
Yeah. And confidence goes a long way. The way you perceive yourself, like it will physically rub off on you. Like, how they say that some people have sex appeal and some people just don't. Like it comes from inside. Like once you feel good and you look good and you know you look good, like the way you move, like the way you flip your hair, like you move like you're a bad bitch, and it starts to show. So I don't know if you're supposed to cuss on here. I'm sorry, but
okay, we grown.
But yeah, so I definitely feel like, how did I deal with not, fitting beauty standards? It got to this point where it's just like, I decided that I'm fine as hell and I ran with it. And I feel like that's the best, I guess, advice I could give, as if anybody asked me for advice, but that's definitely how I dealt with it. And that's how I continue to deal with it.
Okay. I think I would not do plastic surgery because I've always been the type of person who promised myself that I would never go under the knife for anything that's not medical. Like I would donate a kidney, I would donate my lungs, like, I'm that type of person. But when it comes to surgical stuff, I've just never been that girl. Additionally, I've always been it's so backwards that we're talking about standards of beauty, because additionally, I've actually been very uncomfortable when people focus so much on the body, if that makes sense. Like, it makes me, I think if you know me on a personal level, you know that, like, I don't like that. Like, don't talk about like the boob, like, it makes me uncomfortable. I don't know why. I've always been like that. Like, I was a child who like wore baggy clothes because I didn't want you to look at me and just see a body. Like, I didn't want you to look at me and just see like this sexual being. Like, that's not what I am. That's not who I am. That's not everything that I have to offer. So on my part, like, I would never want to modify my body. I think that because it took me so long to love myself, it took me so long to like be comfortable with boobs, and I used to get so mad. I used to ask my mom all the time, like, why can't I ever get thank God for Fashion Nova sidebar, why can't I ever get jeans that, like, went up my hip? Because like, and it sounds so backwards because these are things, somebody used to say, like, these are things people pay for, and I'm not even trying to be shallow, but like, if you really know me, especially ask my high school friends, that shit used to make me uncomfortable. Like, I hated it. Like,
it's either they can't go past your hips, or if you can, then it's too big in the waist.
Like,
and that just goes to show, I'm sorry, for people who say that, like, oh, you just have to be confident in yourself and that's it. But beauty standards they affect you because what is the idea of beauty and what is marketable to the masses is what is put out there. So if you're not seeing makeup in your color, if they don't make clothes that fit your body, that's not it's not a random coincidence. It's because they're catering to what is, marketable. That's what the majority of people need. That's what's profitable, to make clothes like this, make makeup like this. So that's why changing standards of beauty is important, because, everybody needs something.
Everybody needs something. And to love yourself, like, for real. Like, it took me so long to, like, forehead jokes used to make me cry. Like, I used to weep. Like, if you wanted to hurt my feelings I was with this man my freshman year, and he used to come for my forehead, y'all. Like, and that used to hurt. Like, we can laugh about it now, but it used to hurt. Like, I'll be crying, like, tears just like. And then I looked in the mirror. I'm like, you know what? Rihanna's a bad bitch. Heather Santa's a bad bitch, and they all like it. You just really have to wake up one day and look in the mirror and be like, it's kind of symmetrical. It works. Like, just do a little eyebrow. Like, it all balances hard. It's really hard though. But I think Henna mentioned earlier, like, I love that our generation went through this because I know that we're gonna love our kids harder. Like, we're not about to let our daughters or our sons speak to women this way because we know what it feels like. So we're gonna love our kids harder and like protect them more. And I just feel like society hopefully is not going to be as harsh to dark-skinned women or like light-skinned men, hopefully in the near future.
I know. Or it's probably gonna flip again. It's gonna be light skin and skinny people gonna be in style again.
Again, like,
I don't know
okay.
why. Anyways.
And then it's so odd to watch the way it changes because it's like, all right, you know, it was light skinned girls with the curly hair and skinny, and now it's thick women and we like them dark like Peter. I'm like, what do y'all want?
It's a rebellious thing because it's like us growing up and like, how do I put it? Us growing up when we were younger, it was light skins and it was about skinny girls and light skinned guys. Like that's what was it. And I feel like now that we've grown, we ourselves have made it a point that no, dark skins and thick girls are gonna be it.
Yeah, I feel like we were pushing for the underdog in a sense. I was like, that's what's more. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I hate to cut this short, but we running out of time, and I'm gonna make this our last question. Pretty privilege. First of all, I think we all know what pretty privilege is. Do you benefit from pretty privilege, and is it real to you?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
That's I don't know how else to put it. But I can say that pretty privilege, that's left to the perspective of whoever is giving you that privilege, if that makes sense. So yes, it's not necessarily about meeting standards, but whoever is trying to hook you up, if you're cute to them, that might make them want to hook you up a little bit more, you know? That's why I see it as pretty privilege. And it don't have to mean that you laid with somebody or anything like that. It just means because you're pretty, that person is for some reason more inclined to help you with whatever it is you're looking for help with. It's definitely real. And I've used it to my own advantage. When I was going for my road test, I made sure I woke up bright and early that day. I combed y'all know me, like I go outside with my scarf on, my sweats, my t-shirt. I don't care. My toes not done. I don't got no socks on. I don't care. But that day, I knew I wanted to pass that test, and so I used it to my own advantage. I made sure I did my hair. I made sure I wore something nice. It wasn't like crazy sexy, but I wore something nice. You know, just look presentable and stuff like that. And I think it helped because I passed my road test in 5 minutes, y'all. I'm not a cat. I went around the block and I passed. That's it.
Period.
So I think it's definitely real, and it definitely has its advantages. It is a privilege.
I definitely feel like pretty privilege, it's most definitely real. If, you know, well, let me not say if, but speaking from personal experience, you know, I've had guys buy me drinks that I've never spoken a word to, that you cut in front of them in the line at the store. Let you in the club when you know you're not old enough, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like invite you to their table, buy you things, talk to you. Oh, you know, it's real. It's very much real. And I feel like, pretty privilege. It depends on the person who is, I guess, giving you the privilege in a sense, because like there was one time I was walking up to this place and there was a bouncer at the door, and there were two ladies in front of me, and they were older, and they were thick. Like in my opinion, they weren't fat, but like they were thick, and they were older. I thought they were attractive. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a cover charge of $10." They're like, "Well, that's $10," and they turned around and they left. And I walked up before I even got to open my mouth. "Oh, hey there, pretty girl, how are you?" And he just let me go inside. I was like, I thought they were very attractive. So I know it wasn't connecting for me, but I guess it was his preference and his idea of pretty or whatever. So I feel like it depends on the person or persons who are handing out whatever privilege at the time.
Definitely.
I think pretty privilege depends on where you are in the world, if that makes sense. Like, I think that when I was can you use high school as an example? Because where are you really going in high school? but I'm gonna use it anyways. But like, I think that in high school, I don't think that I had quote unquote pretty privilege because I wasn't in an environment that was conducive to what I look like, if that makes sense. And I feel like when I like, for those who don't know, like I live in Toronto, like my family lives in Canada. So like I feel like when I go to Canada, it's like a different breed of like men. Like they're very different. And like I know how like I had the opportunity to live in DC for 4 years. I think DC was where I was like, that's when you meet all types of people and you get all types of free things. They just love the dark girls in DC. And in the South is the same thing, because in the South they're like, oh my God, because you know Southerns are very the light skin thing is very dominant in the South, and it's like you can go to spaces where nobody will look at you at all because you're dark. So not even, you could be Lupita and nobody will blink at you, and you can go to another space where somebody's gonna look at you like you Nubian goddess queen. Of course you can come in. So it really just depends on where you are in the world, because I can personally say, like, I would say it with my chest, like I can never, ever date anybody from Toronto, Canada, from the Ontario GTA area, because like when I was growing up, I felt like nobody loved me for what I look like. So now when I go home and you try to like hype me up, you like me because I'm a trend. You like me because I'm in. You like me because it's cool and it's so that to me is not, that to me is not pretty privilege anymore, because
it's like a fetish.
It's a fetish, you know? So I definitely think it depends on where you are. In DC, for sure, I can definitely say, like, it also helped that, like, my friends were bombed. So, like, I'm mad quiet. I don't really be talking. So when my friends get in for free, I'll just, you know, skirt behind them. And, like, there are scenarios where, you know, somebody just buys you a drink just because they want to. But again, like, environment is really, really important, because, like I said, if I had gone to college in Ontario, for example, like if you go to a PWI, like you're not gonna get those same experiences. You're either gonna be the token Black girl or nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no, so environment is really dependent on pretty privilege, but all in all, it does exist. Just depends on where you are.
Just to give my own story based on that, so I live in the DMV. Like I went to school in DC. I went to visit my cousin in LA at the beginning of this year, and like she made a comment about how they like really into white girls and like light-skinned girls and blah blah blah. They don't pay attention to dark-skinned women. I'm like, whatever, okay. And it was true. I was shocked. Like, not that like I'm so full of myself and I think everywhere I go that men should pay attention to me, whoop de whoop de whoop. But like, I guess I'm used to pretty privilege from where I come from. We went to the club. Let me tell you, the entire table, they were all light skinned and white. Like I was the darkest girl at the table. And when I say at the table, like it was like this thing where she knew the promoter, you know how they pick and choose and the girls and whatever. And it's like, but I was looking around and there were a lot of like celebrities in the club too. Like there was YG was there, the game was there, Javante came, I forgot whatever people's name. So like I'm looking at all these celebrities, all these tables, I'm like, all these girls are light and white. I'm like literally the darkest girl here. I'm just like, wow. Like we'd be walking and like we were walking, she took me somewhere famous, like, I don't know, all these expensive stores, I forget. And like these guys stopped us and they were like talking to my cousin and just like, yeah. And she's like, girl, don't mind them. Like I said, I don't know what's wrong with them, but like dark skin girl, it's not a thing out here. And I was shook. I was like, oh, I need to go back to where I came from because I don't like it. But yeah, your environment definitely plays into it. So that was a shock for me.
That's why I can never live nowhere that's not New York or the DMV or Atlanta. And that's on period. Oh, Chicago too, because basically just leave me in the East Coast and some of the Midwest, because I don't have time for any of this. So I was gonna bring up the conversation with something about pop culture and like the whole Lizzo and Diddy IG live scenario. However, we do not have time to talk about that, so I'm really, really sad. But I do think that we covered it earlier when we were talking about bigger women and standards of beauty. So I will let everyone do like a little one-liner about Lizzo. Personally, I love Lizzo. I love the fact that she loves herself. I love the fact that she is a representation for women who look like her. I love the fact that she's utilizing her platform in a positive manner. I think that people calling her attention seekers or being an attention seeker is very disrespectful, because when Kylie Jenner posts her plastic body, no offense, she likes it, I love it. Nobody's ever like Kylie put on clothes, or like when SZA's showing her abs, nobody does that. When Rihanna posts something on Instagram, we all retweet it, doesn't matter what she's wearing. So when Lizzo does it, it shouldn't be a problem because she isn't the standard of beauty. So I love the fact that she's a representation for women who are shaped like her and who look like her.
Perfect.
That's my little piece on Lizzo.
And I second that notion.
I love Lizzo. Let me tell you why people don't love Lizzo. People don't like Lizzo because she has the audacity to feel like she's beautiful, despite the fact that she's big. And the one thing that bothers me about that, she's gorgeous. Like really, she looks good. So, but people don't like the fact that she's so comfortable with herself and being big, and she's not like shying away from it the way that we expect them to. People don't like that, and I feel like. And then it really bothers me that the argument always is, oh, you guys are hyping that up. That's not healthy. You don't care about health. Health isn't the thing. You just don't like the fact that she's fat and the fact she's comfortable with it. There are people who are naked and have their booty cheeks on Instagram day in and day out, but it's okay because they look the way that you think is acceptable. You're not concerned about health. If you were concerned about health, your favorite rapper who drinks lean and eats perks, like that's their diet, you wouldn't support them because the way they live is not healthy. You're not concerned about her health, her body. You're not concerned about her health or her body. You don't like the way that she looks. And you don't like the fact that she has the audacity to live in a truth that's different than your own. You know what I mean? Like they don't, like you're supposed to be shy and quiet if you're big and wear the nice little outfits that they choose to leave for you in the plus size section. Nah, she's bold AF in her fatness and it makes people uncomfortable. So, that's my little spiel on this song.
And that's on period. So thank you guys for, sitting in and staying and watching and just rocking with us all the way through. This has been episode 3 of Gin and Gist. Again, I'm Preshy.
And I'm Breii.
And I'm Henna.
And we will catch you on our next episode. So, like, comment, subscribe, engage, all that stuff. Bye.
Bye.